If your Etsy shop feels invisible, like you've been doing all of the things, but the sales just aren't coming in, you are not alone. The good news is that every single one of them is fixable. In this video, I am breaking down the 5 most common reasons Etsy shops struggle to make sales and how to fix them. Whether you are a brand new shop or a couple months in, I want you to leave this video knowing exactly what to tackle. And the last one might be a hard pill to swallow, but it is also the one that will make the biggest difference. Before we get into the specific actionable steps, I want to give you the ultimate tip that you need to take and conquer, and that is your mindset. Etsy is not luck. The algorithm is not against you. You are in control of your success. So instead of thinking,
oh, poor me, Etsy just hates me and doesn't want me to be successful, and I just can't seem to strike the algorithm lottery,
change your mindset to what can I do differently? If you are willing to do that, you will find value in this video. And listen, I am not saying this from like a mountaintop of perfection. When I started my shop, I made a plethora of these mistakes. No one starts out as an expert, and if they did, then that probably means that they waited too long to start and could have been way further along in their journey had they not waited until they were perfect. And if you're new here, hey, I'm Erica. I started my Etsy shop around 8 months ago. It was in January of this year, and I sell digital products. More specifically, I sell Canva templates in the party printables niche. So think things like invites, banners, signs, really any kind of printable party decor. I have since brought in over 2,000 orders and over $14,000 in sales. And I share my journey along with tips and tutorials here on YouTube with a very realistic, no BS approach. I create new videos weekly, so be sure to subscribe if you don't want to miss them. Okay, let's dive in. Mistake number 1 is poor SEO. Let's start with the big one because this is like the preliminary thing that you need to have down in order for people to be able to even find your product. Because if they can't even find your product, then they definitely aren't buying it. And if you don't already know, SEO stands for search engine optimization. It is a big part of how an algorithm of really any platform pushes out products. In the case of Etsy, your SEO primarily comes from 4 different areas. 1, your title, 2, your tags, 3, your attributes, and lastly, your description. Etsy takes everything from these 4 areas and uses the words in them to figure out who to push out your product to. It is essentially like a combination of ingredients, and then they push it out to the person searching for that recipe. So even if you make the best product in the world, no one is going to be able to find it if you don't properly nail your SEO. Etsy has no way of determining what your product is or who it's for other than what you tell it. There's no employee at Etsy going through every single product and being like,
okay, cool, we'll push this product out to this audience, and we'll push this one out to this audience.
No, it is literally a math equation or algorithm that decides this. So if you find yourself saying, no one can even find me, or I'm not even getting any views, you probably have an SEO problem. And here's what you need to do. So you have a lot of real estate for your SEO, your titles, your tags, your description, your attributes, and you need to use it. All of it. Create 13 different tags every single time. Fill out the attributes when applicable. And avoid using the same word 5 different times when you could use related but different ones. Pull out your thesaurus or the internet as we use nowadays. And lastly, get into your customer's brain. What are they typing in the search bar to eventually land on your product? This isn't going to be an entire video about enhancing your SEO. There are plenty of them out there, but I just really want to drive home the point that your SEO truly, strongly does matter. All right, moving on to mistake number 2, and that is low quality or unrealistic photos. Okay, so let's say that your SEO is fine. People are seeing your product. That is awesome, but no one's clicking on it. That is a photos problem. Your photos are the book cover, and people absolutely judge by the cover when they are shopping for products. It is the only thing that they have to judge, and you have to earn their click. I've seen all too often people just pasting a photo of their product on a blank background or not properly sizing things so parts of it get cut off. And ultimately that drives people away from clicking on it. And you don't need to be a photographer or a professional editor to make high quality mockups. You can make them right in Canva for free. One of my top tips for creating realistic looking mockup photos is to use shadows. Shadows will bring your product to life. I show this in all of my tutorials. And if you want to take your mockups to the next level, I highly suggest you use PSD files, which you can buy on Etsy for really cheap. PSD files are typically meant for Photoshop, but you can actually use a website called Photopea or Photopea. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce it, but you can use that for totally free to be able to place your design onto a mockup photo. The biggest takeaway that I want you to have when it comes to mockup photos is that you want them to look incredibly realistic. You want the customer to be able to envision what it is actually going to look like in use and in their real life. Okay, mistake number 3 is having an unclear product. Let's say they click on your product. Awesome, that's a win. But they scroll a little bit, read through your description, look at all your photos, and ultimately end up clicking away. Why is that? There's a chance that they still don't really know exactly what they're getting, and I see this all the time, especially with digital products. Just the other day, I was looking for a mock-up file that I could use for an 8x10 sign that I made. I came across 2 separate listings that I liked, then could not find anywhere in the listing confirming that the size of the mock-up was 8x10, which is kind of vital information. It was nowhere in the title, in the listing photos, in the description, and I didn't want to wait for a response from the buyer because I needed it ASAP, so I ended up going with one from another shop that did specify the size. So even though I typed in 8x10 mockup into Etsy, there was nowhere in that original listing for me to verify that that was the actual size. So you really gotta spell it out for your customers. Literally make a bullet point list of exactly what they're getting. The number of files, the sizes, what's included, how they'll use it. Is it a template or a ready to print file? Include a photo that shows it in action. If it's a printable, show what it would look like printed. If it's a template, show a before and after photo of what it can look like customized. Pretend like you are trying to explain it to a 5-year-old, or better yet, like you are trying to show your 90-year-old grandma how to use Facebook, because clarity converts. One thing I always like to recommend is not to rely on your description only to include all of your product details. Include it in your listing photos too, because not everyone reads the description, but pretty much everyone looks at all of the listing photos before they buy. Okay, mistake number 4 is creating something that has no demand or something that has really high competition. This one's kind of tricky because the issue isn't the product itself, it's the market. You can create the absolute most aesthetic, cutest thing in the world, but if no one is searching for it, no one's gonna find it and no one's gonna buy it. Or the opposite, if you are selling a product that is so saturated and there's tons of competition, you're going to be competing against thousands of other products just like yours. Now, I'm not saying that you can't succeed in a competitive niche. You definitely can. I'm personally in a competitive niche, but you need to either find a gap in the market or position yourself differently. That might mean a slightly different style, a bundle, a theme twist, something to make you stand out against the competition. And if you are interested in learning how to stand out in a competitive niche, I do have a whole video on that, which I will link at the top of this video. But essentially the point that I want to get across is that you shouldn't try to be so creative with your ideas that you end up making something that no one even wants, but also don't go so broad that you just end up as a speck of sand at the beach. Okay, mistake number 5 is that your product just isn't that good. All right, this might be the one that you don't want to hear, but honestly, I find it to be the one that is the most liberating because it's fixable. Sometimes the product just isn't that good. I don't mean that you're bad or untalented. I just mean that the product might just not be designed well enough yet. Maybe the graphics are too basic or the font choice is chaotic. Maybe things just aren't lined up in a way that is aesthetic to the eye. Here's the good news. This is fixable. You can change this. There is always room to get better. If you don't look back at your first designs and cringe, well then I don't know, maybe you're a professional designer. But seriously, it takes a lot of time and practice to get good. My designs in the beginning were highly questionable, and it's funny looking back on it because at the time I thought they were really good. But now that I've created almost 500 products, my designs have gotten so much better, and that is almost entirely just due to practice. But how do you get better aside from just practice? You can study your competition, look at designs that have bestseller badges. You can watch YouTube videos. I watched a simple 10-minute video on font combinations, and the things that I learned in it helped me so much. You don't need to go to graphic design school, but you do need to continuously get better. Nobody in any profession should ever be like,
okay, yeah, I think I know it all now.
And if they do say that, then they probably kind of suck as a person. There is always room to improve, and that's why I think this one is actually kind of liberating. So again, tying it back to the whole mindset thing, rather than thinking like, oh, I suck at designing and my products suck, think, how can I get better? Okay, and the last thing that I want to say in this video, and this isn't necessarily a mistake that people make, but it is something that I truly believe will help you increase your sales. List your freaking heart out. I list a lot of products, like a lot. If you've watched my videos before, you know that I am a big advocate for listing quantity. In last month alone, I created 80 new products. Now, quality always matters. I'm not saying that you should sacrifice quality for quantity, but the more high quality listings you have, the more lottery tickets you've bought, essentially. I would love to tell you that it's a myth. You really don't need that many products to be successful, because that sounds really nice and promising. But I just don't think that's true. Can it happen? Sure, it can, but for the majority of sellers, it does not. And I just want to say that there are definitely products that take take more time to create and you're not going to be able to pump out 80 listings in a month. For something like a budget tracking spreadsheet that has hundreds of equations, multiple tabs, a beautiful color-coded design, something like that might take you a full week to create. Look, I get that. I get that some products do take more time, but still create as many as you can with the time that you have. And just because your product takes a lot of time doesn't mean you picked the wrong product or niche, because everyone in your niche is playing on the same playing field. A person creating budgeting spreadsheets isn't competing on listing quantity with someone like me who's creating invitations that can be created and listed in under an hour. Ultimately, the more listings you create, the higher the chance you have at getting sales. I just really don't think that someone can argue that. It's just statistics, it's math. And not only that, but the more products you create, the better you get at creating them, which in turn will also get you more sales. Listing quantity is a hill I will die on. And don't get discouraged when you see these successful shops that have thousands of listings. I know that can feel super daunting at first, but if you are consistent over time, it can really add up. I started my shop 8 months ago and I already have almost 500 products. And that is coming from a mom of a 1.5-year-old that only works while he's sleeping. Okay, if you recognize yourself in any of these mistakes, that is actually great news. It means you are not doomed and you now know where to start. Pick one thing. You don't need to overhaul your shop tonight. Just start with a thing that made you go, oh yeah, that's me. Fix that, then move on to the next thing. And if you want me to dive deeper into any of the topics that we mentioned in this video today, like SEO or mock-up photos or how I create so many listings, please let me know in the comments below. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye.